Hi, this is Genevieve Griffin from Small Steps Go Places, and I am doing the Going to College 101 monthly interview. And this month, we are talking to Dr. David Gelpi. Dr. Gelpi teaches at a boys' Jesuit school in the Bronx, and he also has a podcast called Catholic Dirt, which you should definitely check out. It's a great podcast. So, Dr. Gelpi, I would like to welcome you to Going to College 101, and thank you for doing the monthly topic interview. And I'm not sure what's going on. So I am not giving this specific monthly interview a topic.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's a thrill.
Well, it's wow. I've been looking so forward to this. I'm going to get right into the questions because we're in a pandemic. Who knew? And we've made it through the first few months, but now we're trying to get some semblances of our world going again. There are a lot of questions, and I wanted to start off asking you what the concept of unknown means to you as a teacher.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think that there are so many unknowns. I'm not really sure what September will bring. I teach religious studies. I'm in the religion department. So mystery and unknown takes on, sometimes it can take on a different meaning, depending on what's happening. But, I've tried to look at it while I consider, some of the images that, Ignatian images that we've gotten, that we reflect on, and life is unknown. I'd like to think that I know what's going to happen tomorrow, and I have all these plans, and I put everything in place, but that doesn't always happen. It doesn't always manifest itself. So I think that what unknown means to me is uncertainty. It means that I need to be flexible. It means that I shouldn't be rigid. It means being ready, being as prepared as I possibly could be for whatever will come, whatever manifests in the next couple of months. As I reflect back on these past few months that we've been in lock in place or lockdown or quarantine or semi-quarantine, it's all been unknown, and there have been lots of mysteries that have only unfolded as they've been unfolding, and that my wife and I, and the administrators at the school, we could not anticipate any of it, and together we had to figure out and discern, well, what are the next steps in light of what we know at this moment, not knowing what would come in the next moment, the next day, or whatever. But it's the mystery is I've tried to frame it in some of the images that come out of classical literature and out of scripture, that the unknown has the potential to be transformative. It has the potential to be crushing as well, but the tradition gives us this sense that the unknown can present opportunities for growth and for transformation.
I like that idea of transformation a lot, because I'm a silver lining person. So you've done a good job of answering both the questions, even though I didn't ask you the second one yet. What as a human being? And so that is really, really good.
But we can't separate. I think that there are some people perhaps who think that being a teacher and a human are distinct and separate. And I would imagine that most of your listenership would tell you that that's not true. And this is probably true of any profession. And I think the thing that presents the most challenge, especially as we talk about next steps, we're having this discussion as we anticipate what school will be like in several weeks from now. And the discussion, as far as the politicians are concerned, the political leaders are having these discussions out of context. And it seems that they don't realize that these systems, that these institutions are made up of people. And that the teachers, that these instructors, that we're not robots. We are people, we're human, and we have emotions, and we're impacted because of the profound care that we have for our students. And a lot of these discussions, we're filtering them through how we imagine this is going to impact the students and their families. It's not just me; it's a community. I'm hard pressed to answer just as an educator, and then just as as a guy from the Bronx.
I'm glad you brought that up. It was interesting at the beginning because I was writing additional newsletters to the ones that I normally write about how to handle having smaller siblings at home as a teenager and trying to do school. And it really seemed like parents for a while were saying, oh no, my child's at school. So, that's, and I wondered, is that how people really, really look at things? My child's at school, they're with the teacher, I'm at work, I don't deal with that. And then over those months, we all dealt with that. Suddenly, it reminded me of the stories that my grandparents used to tell me when maybe one person in the family unit would go out someplace and work and come back, but everything was happening from the root of the family. And it seems like, especially in the United States, that hasn't been that way for a very long time. And this is an opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're spot on. One of the things that I have always said, the first time that I met with parents, we would have like a back to school night, and they'd go through the schedule of their boys. And I would always tell them that we are in partnership. Mm-hmm. I'm not teaching anything over and against, I hope, what's happening at home. But because of the subject matter that I teach and in the context, what we say, what I'm the material we believe is countercultural. So in some homes, what I'm saying might not be what the parents are saying, but by and large, I think that this idea of technicians and people being specialists have so permeated our culture that you're off at school and the teacher does and you learn, but if we have learned anything during these past several months is that we're in this together, and parents and teachers and counselors and other mental health professionals, police, we're in this together. We're all trying to not only hand down the culture, but we're also trying to be proactive and informative and transformative together as a unit. Otherwise, it falls apart and it doesn't work. So perhaps one of the things that will come out of this experience of the pandemic will be this idea that we're all teaching, and kids are always learning. They are always learning, as an esteemed colleague of mine, someone that we know in common, Dennis Ahern, would always tells us in terms of teacher formation that we might have a lesson planned over here, but they learn something entirely different, that hidden curriculum, but they are always learning, and at home they are always learning too. So we should view ourselves in partnership with the family.
One hope that I have is that learning starts having a little less testing and a little bit more context. But that is well, I don't know. Hopefully, lots of people are thinking about that. So when these guys are coming back to school, and I think at this point, I'm going to talk about the upperclassmen, because I know you've had experience with the upperclassmen as well. How could they prepare to deal with school not looking and feeling like it has been in the past?
Yeah, that's going to be a very profound challenge for the older boys who are accustomed to being in high school the way that it has been. There's a lot of movement. The school where I am, there are some structures, but they're very broad. There's a lot of room before you hit the guardrails. And so we assume a lot of maturity on the boys' part. But this year, we aren't going to be as close as we have been in the past. Mm-hmm. Learning is about proximity, and we will be separated by devices if the boys are remote, and we'll be separated by, in some cases, perhaps even physical barriers. There might be plexiglass. I'm not sure, but there might be. I know that we tend to use the room. A lot of my colleagues, we don't stand in one spot. We move around. And so it's just this proximity in terms of being physically close and being able to physically support each other. And so the boys are going to have to reimagine what that will be and how they will do that. So I'm not really sure how to do that. That's been an issue for me. It's been a struggle these past 3 weeks as I've been anticipating what the school year will be like and how I am preparing for that. And so we've been encouraged to rely more on, do group stuff and more collaborative stuff, but we won't be able to do that. So I think that what the boys need to do is what I'm trying to do is like, well, how do I get close to someone? How do I physically encourage someone? Before it was a pat on the back or, a high five or a fist pump or whatever. And, now it's, I'm not going to tap somebody's shoe. I mean, that's just, we don't do that. Right. So I think we have to figure out how we're going to be intimate with 6 feet apart, and how we will be intimate while getting ready for the boys to leave. Because with the seniors, I talk about, masculinity and the hero's adventure as a jump off point for their own hero quest. So that's really intimate, but the boys won't always be there. How do we develop a culture of support, of a positive male environment where we can support each other? If we're not always going to be there and we have to be 6 feet apart, that's going to be difficult. How do I teach the boys to make a tie, 3 different tie knots, if we're not always going to be in the same physical space? So I think those are the challenges that the older boys have to come to grips with. Sitting at a table in the cafeteria where their whole crew used to be. Now the boys are going to sit at a desk in the lunchroom. It's a grab and go kind of thing. So they'll have to prepare themselves to be social from apart. It's a profound human experiment that we're entering into these next several weeks.
It's a very eloquent description of so much. I was having a hard time staying focused because you made me think about other things. And tying the ties brought me back, because that is something you've got to be there and helping. Yeah. But I have a friend who teaches in a hospital, and her students are cancer patients. They're middle school and high school students. And she said, this is how we always do it. And I've gone to conferences in the past where we've checked out virtual reality, which is you're enveloping yourself in a world, and you're present, and there might be other people in it, but there's no touching. Yeah. Really. I mean, you can hit the ball, but the ball's not really there. And you made me think of all of these things. We're not really ready as a culture for virtual reality yet, but maybe we're going to end up, delving into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is high school. These are high school boys. Mm-hmm. They are very physical. Their lockers are in close proximity if they're participating in sports. So this is the jump off point for these boys, especially as they're going off to college. And I think that boys in general experience some level of social retardation. We don't really know how to express our emotions. And so there's this awkwardness. And so when we're thrust into an environment like freshman year college, and you handle this and deal with this at a really profound way with the counselors and this program, if they're not accustomed to being expressive emotionally in a safe environment with other guys, if they can't be physical with other guys, like what's going to happen next September when they're off in college, and now they're in a dorm where there are girls on the other end of the floor, on the different wing. How will that then manifest itself? So there's a lot at stake here that, some of our political leaders, I think, are aware of, but there's a lot more to it than there are a lot of skills that we need to anticipate and we need to be especially attentive to. But for me, what I have found for me is that most of what I'm thinking about, what I have been thinking mostly about up until, the past couple of days, has been the technical part of hybrid learning and how to manage the technology and whatever else the school is asking me to do in terms of the technology side. But there's also this human element, these skills that these boys need to develop, and they need strong, positive male images, coaches, mentors, teachers, to kind of help them transition to the next stage. So I'm trying to think on that a little bit more. I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious of that, because they could learn, as we have learned, they could learn from home. They don't need, teachers to teach them, but they need the human interaction. They need the community, and the boys especially need this. Girls as well, and girls can reach out, they can extend themselves in general. But boys, we tend to be a little bit less proactive. We tend to be a little bit more reactive in that regard. So, I'm just hoping that as a school, and I think that most of the teachers are really good, that we're able to extend ourselves and reach out, beyond the technology of the learning, the learning aspects.
Wow.
There's a lot going on.
Well, there is a lot going on, and there should be a lot going on. And this is perhaps for me one of the few times that I've gone beyond people's fear of the unknown and whether or not they're going to be able to do the thing that they've always done accurately so that the administrators are happy and the parents are, and everything. And it's not about the test scores or the administrators being happy or the parents being happy. It's about the kids being engaged, the boys and the girls being engaged in a learning process that can be done at this point that brings them through this so that they continue to love learning, whatever way that means. One question that I didn't talk with you about, but that I would wonder as you're talking about this, because I think probably at your school, as at many schools, there are groups of people, there are teams and entire staffs that are talking about how you're going to do this. Are you including any of the students in the discussions?
I know that the administration has reached out. So before, they were doing surveys, they were doing parent surveys just before we ended the term last May. So there were interviews, there were surveys, and then they did the same with the students. So they compile all that information and then they shared that with us. So I did do a survey, an informal survey. I used Flipgrid, and I asked the boys, identify 2 things that you found reasonable, that were good, et cetera. And then more importantly, can you specifically identify 2 areas that need improvement? Mm-hmm. And so the boys loved doing Flipgrid. It was a short video, they had up to 2 minutes, and they posted it and they all got to see. And they were very, very helpful. And there were contributions that they made that I have incorporated into my thinking and planning for this academic year that's coming. And the school leadership, they have also done that with the parents and students, as I said, but they shared all of those responses with the faculty. And based on that, they have been profoundly supportive of us. They have, somehow the president has made monies available for professional development. He's given stipends. The vice presidents of academics and the other for professional development, faculty supervision, and faculty development have been sending out resources, and they've been responsive. So I'm reminded of a professor I had when I was in college who taught ROCT classes. And whenever we would do something that we thought was specifically difficult or that we did not want to do, he would always tell us, this is an opportunity to excel. Mm-hmm. So frame it that way. And while the school has not used that specific phrase, that's the idea. It's like, this is an opportunity for us to experiment, to get the boys more engaged, to collaborate with parents. And we have been given, at least from my perspective, unlimited support and unlimited resources. I can reach out to any faculty member if there's a platform that I'm trying to figure out, like Edpuzzle, for example. I can reach out to anyone, and I will get an immediate response in terms of the faculty. So we're committed to the boys, and we're committed to the school. We're very aware of the support that we have, and we've been given a little bit of room to experiment, to fail if we need to. And if it isn't working, if the boys tell us it's not working, well, we do something else. The boys are more flexible. The students are more flexible than I think we give them credit for. And that's an Ignatian educational characteristic. When we speak of Jesuit Ignatian education, one of those hallmarks is flexibility. And I think that we as adults, we tend to forget that, and the kids remind us.
Right. It makes total sense. It's kind of like someone put a pop quiz into life, and it sounds like they're doing just fine. I mean, all of what you've just described, that's much more important than any of the school subjects that you could teach. The fact that they are involved in their school dealing positively with this challenge is huge.
Yes. And it is it isn't. We always say that Jesuit education, when you are at the end, whether it's high school or college, university studies, that you should be open to growth. And what better way to model that as educators is through this process. If something isn't working and we sense that, we need to take a step back and change it. The whole model of Jesuit education is predicated on a retreat, and the retreat is really about reflection. And so as I do what I do, regardless of what it is, I need to pause and reflect, or do an examine, to use the Jesuit term. I need to do an examine of what I'm doing so that I'm not just going through the motions. And that's true of my practice as an educator. I need to stop on a regular basis and figure out, well, what am I doing? What's going on? How is this working? How is this impacting my students? How is this impacting me? And then make some adjustments if I need to.
Do you realize how different Jesuit education is than so many other types of education?
Yeah. And I think sometimes we think that we have a monopoly on it, and we've got the market, and there are so many schools that I'm sure that your listeners can identify that do the same thing, but perhaps just use different language. And it's all the same thing. And really good schools have really good administrators. And I'd like to think that that I work with really professional educators. They care about their craft. They care about the science of teaching, and we're always eating. And I don't know how that's going to be now. I mean, there's always food in the faculty room. We're always joking, right? That changes. There's always something there. People bring stuff in, and there's a colleague he teaches math. He's very, very strict, but he loves to cook and he loves baking. And so he'll bring in things and he'll just drop it on the table, and we'll eat. And there's this fellowship that so many other schools experience. That how do we manage that in a post-pandemic world? How do we eat? How do we break bread and laugh and joke? Because that then carries over to class. If I have just been in the faculty staff room and I've been laughing to the point of tears, I'm now going back to my classroom in happy. I'm in a good mood. So I will bring that with me. If I'm in a mask and I'm purelling or whatever, if I can't really sit to eat with my mates, what happens when I go back to the room? It's a challenge that the kids are going to deal with, that we as adults will deal with.
And you can sit there as a creative person and think about all the different ways virtually that things happen, but you can't virtually eat a cookie. It just doesn't work. Yeah. And you can make your own cookie. I'm sure you've had virtual, cups of coffee, or virtual happy hours, or virtual happy birthday party,
right.
But it's
not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah, clearly.
And I am confident that this is going to end. And everything always seems like it's not going to end when it's an unknown, and then it's over, and we've moved on.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. No. We're not there yet. So here's a good question. How are you going to meet your new students?
Well, I've been looking since last week. Every day I go online to see if my schedule has been posted. Because once it is, then I have access to my students. So the first thing I'll do is I'll send a note. Actually, it won't be a note. I'll record a short video. I'll introduce myself, to the students, and then I'll do a short one introducing myself to the parents, so they can get an idea who I am, what I'm all about. And then I'll give them an opportunity to do one of those flip grids. where, especially for the freshmen, where they can introduce themselves. This is an entirely new school. We have all of these rituals that we do with the freshmen that we'll do later, but it'll be a little bit different. But I'll do that. I'll introduce myself virtually, and I'll be open to any email responses. I'll try to send the note to my mentor group, reach out to them specifically. So we're all assigned a group of 14 or 15 boys for the underclassmen that we mentor. We're not counselors, but we act as their, we're kind of like their rabbis, so to speak. We're their coach on the side. It's just another adult. So I'll reach out to those boys in a very specific, particular way, but I'll try to meet them as soon as I get the lists so that they can know who I am and get an idea what I look like, what I sound like. And then if there are doubts, their parents can move them into another class. But that's what I'll try to do, in these weeks leading up to orientation, that last week in August.
It's nice for everyone to have warm weather right now. So I know my kids are all out of high school and just about all out of college, but when they've gotten together with friends with a mask, they go to the park and then they position themselves 8 or 10 feet away. Then they take their mask off and they have their picnic.
Yeah.
And then the other person has their picnic.
Right.
And it's nice to have the warm weather. And someone did point out at some point, it would be great if schools could do that. You have a football stadium right there.
Yeah.
Why not go and do the classes there? It's a lot of plates in the air going on. But there is, I guess, opportunities for you to briefly actually look at somebody.
Yeah. I've not thought of that. And I think that I've kind of yielded. I think a lot of us have yielded to the school leadership. There might be some liability issues there.
Yeah.
And I would not want to put the school in that position.
There's always liability issues. It was interesting this past weekend. So I'm up in the Adirondacks, not in New York City, which is where I live most of the year. And I went to a neighboring small town over the weekend. And we went to the gas station to do something. And it was like a big parking lot next to the gas station. It's filled with people on motorcycles, with VFW people, and all of the fire engines and EMTs are lined up. And then all of the old-time car people are coming in. So I'm talking about a parade, right? And so it was some sort of a parade, and we need a parade right now.
Yeah.
But there were all these groupings of people all together. I don't know if they were families or friends. They were so excited to see one another. And if you're not careful, having something, it's outside, everyone could have been 8 feet away. They could have worn their mask. If they were 8 feet away, maybe they wouldn't have needed to wear their mask. They could have the whole parade. People would honk and wave and yell things, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know in a week or in 2 weeks if that's going to end up meaning that there's going to be a spike. Because it's been a very low number of cases.
Yeah.
It's a very rural area, and most of the time people are in cars. But it's that example, people know how to stay safe. This is a pandemic.
Yes.
It's nobody's telling you to do something, because they're trying to lord it over you. It's a pandemic. This is what you do to stay safe. Yet. So maybe that's what the administration is.
I think so. And we're on a. The building itself is located on the campus of a major university. So all of our students, in order to get to our little parcel, have to enter through the university points of entry. They will probably not allow that. So they're putting in a system where we have to do I think it's called Vital Check. It generates a barcode. So until the students are enrolled, they won't have, and even myself, we don't have access to that. So I think that there are so many variables, but I would like to give the boys, especially in that small group, the mentor group, those 14 or 15 boys, the opportunity to meet each other online so that when we are physically in the same space for orientation, they would have at least met virtually, so that when we do have the opportunity to be in the same physical space, they can say, all right, well, I've already met that guy and those three kids. Oh, that's the funny kid who told that story about, wanting to be this, or he's from this neighborhood or from this parish or plays this sport. So at least they'll know somebody. And I think of boys and women who are involved in a college sport who report in August of their freshman year, and they're there before everyone else. So they already have their own group. I'm sure that dynamic is changing now because of the pandemic, but it just lends itself to this sense of belonging and I'm here, this is me. And they've already begun to transition before the other 3,000 students have arrived. And so if I can afford them a little bit of that safety and that comfort, I think that they'll appreciate it. But more importantly, their parents. I think if their parents know that, right, here is another adult who is looking out for my son and is concerned with his transition, well, that's great. And I can imagine, I'm thinking of myself and projecting myself into that, it will alleviate some stress. I'm sure that parents are stressed out with work and the economy and stimulus check, no stimulus check. Many of our families own small businesses and have been impacted by that. So if one thing can be relieved, then that'll be great. I think that we can, if we as myself and as a school can alleviate that, then that'll be good for them.
Yipes. I'm still wondering how you're going to do the tie thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's an essential skill. I think boys need to be able to make a tie. They should be able to shave, and this is stuff that if they'll see me do it, but then hopefully they can do this, with their grandfather, if he's still alive, or an uncle, or with their dad. We may be in lock-in place again. So what better thing to do than
be able to do that?
Show your son how to make a tie.
A friend of mine who is not an educator had a new employee and had a virtual meeting to welcome the new employee. Because I'm telling you how important what you're talking about is. So my friend's attire has become less formal over the last several months, but less formal means no jacket, but there's still a tie. And so the new employee shows up in a Star Wars shirt. So now not only is my friend talking about the work, and the expectation and how this person can move into the position and how needed they are. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Well,
but you are preparing young men, so that's never going to happen.
I hope not. Well, at least I'm wearing a collared shirt today.
I am too.
Yes. So and those are things that we were taught, in school, and other people modeled it for us. And my grandfather had a rule. He would come home dressed the way he left. So he would, if he had a bow tie, if it was 90 degrees, he would wear that bow tie until he got home, because that's how he left home. And you don't undress midway, You go home the way you left, unless you were coaching, or if you stopped to do something that required you to change it to something else. But so we'll see how that goes. We'll work on that.
The thing that people don't always understand or appreciate, and I know when I was younger, I felt this way as well. Your mother says, no, you've got to like wear this, or your teacher or your dad, or no, you've got, you've got to have the jacket, or you've got to do this shirt. And when you're younger, it becomes, oh, someone's told me to do this. Oh, it's such a pain, such a pain. But in fact, when you go to the trouble of preparing yourself, it's really something that you're giving yourself, because you walk into the room feeling like you've given yourself the best shot. So, if everybody else is wearing a Star Wars t-shirt, then I guess you're going to be walking into the room with a Star Wars t-shirt because you don't want to look, like a dork. Right. But still, you're going to do the best job that you can of presenting yourself because you care about yourself.
I agree. So if you're going to wear the Star Wars shirt, it should be the best Star Wars shirt. It should be the cleanest. It should be the freshest. It shouldn't just be pulled right out of the hamper. It should be the cleanest Star Wars shirt. It should be the best Star Wars shirt there.
Right. And you better have a reason for doing that.
Right. If everyone else is wearing it.
Right.
So I think that I think you're right. And I think that we oftentimes forget, and I see like these freshmen when they come in, they are, they're crisp and they want to present themselves ready. It shows that they are ready, and they want to be treated as if they are ready. And so there's a lot to that. And I think that's what they should be thinking about now is how do I look ready? How do I look like I'm ready to go? Because if I don't look ready, then people are going to disregard me. People will make impressions of us based on our readiness, and we do that too. We may project, what we may not intend to. But wear your best Star Wars shirt.
If you're ready, you are recognized, and if you're recognized, you matter.
Mm-hmm. And then opportunities present themselves to you.
Right. You were talking about things before, and mattering means so much, especially when you're a younger person. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right.
So on that note, what takeaway would you give to high school students as they're going into the unknown of this fall? Yeah,
I loved high school. I absolutely loved it, which is why I'm still in high school 30 plus years later. My takeaway would be to be open to everything that presents itself. To be ready, to be eager, to be proactive. Don't sit back and let things happen to you. To be ready, to be prepared, put the time in, the same way that you would if you are involved in a sport. If you are an athlete, if you're going to compete in a winter sport, then you prepare in the summer or in the spring. It's the same. So be ready, be eager. Frame things as opportunities to do better. Try to present your best work, your best effort. I try to smile as much as I can. It's not always easy, but I try to smile. I try to be positive, and I say hello to everyone. So be that guy, or that girl as you're going off to school. Be ready to make friends. You don't want to be a social butterfly. You want to be, particular about, who you give yourself away to, but be prepared and say hello and, cheer people on. Here goes my phone.
But at the end, it's at the end.
Yeah. So I think that would be the takeaway. Try to put your best foot forward and try to work as hard as you can. Try to be involved. Try to get involved in as many activities as you can, slowly, so that you're not overwhelmed. And that will take you out of your comfort zone as well. It'll bring you into new groups of people. It'll bring new experiences for you. And then slowly you can become a little bit more independent. You can make decisions. Your parents will let you make decisions. You'll be able to do things on your own. So that's my takeaway. Be open, be ready, have fun, say hello to everybody, laugh when you feel it's appropriate, and, be open.
That is a great takeaway.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So, Dr. Gelpi, again, I would really like to thank you for joining me for the Going to College 101 interview. This has been an outstanding interview.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm feeling like this fall has some good silver linings to it.
Absolutely. It could. And one of the things that I study with the older boys, as I mentioned, is the hero cycle. And the challenges evoke our character, and they get us ready for the real challenge. And I think that this pandemic thing, whatever we call it, I think it's getting us all ready for whatever is next. So it is exciting, and it has the potential to be transformative or crushing, depending on how you respond.
So my vote is for transformative.
I'm with you. Absolutely. We're in this together. We're going to be transformed, you and I.
Definitely. Okay. You take care.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good luck to everyone. Be well. Be safe.
Be safe.